Hello, Year 6. It is Friday, the 26th of February. We are now on Lesson 5 of our 2-week writing unit, where you are writing and publishing a newspaper report. Now, today you are going to be writing and editing your first paragraph. So you're going to need paper, pencils, your group's waggle, all your research that you did earlier on in the week, and your checklist from yesterday. So it's quite a lot of things that you need, but they're all going to be essential for you to write your first paragraph. So if you haven't got them, I suggest you stop the video now and you restart the video when you are ready to continue with your learning. Okay, Year 6. Now, you will have all had this grid sent to you. You know how to do this by now. I'm not going to spend a lot of time filling this one in with you because we have been doing it, well, right since September. So you are going to have to decide whether what we're doing here. So are we advising? Are we discussing? Are we persuading? Are we entertaining? Are we informing? And I haven't put informing on there. So what are we going to be doing? Are we informing? I will leave that one up to you to decide which one of these that we are doing here. So are we going to be advising our reader? Are we going to be entertaining them? Are we going to be persuading, discussing, or performing? You cross out the ones you don't think we're going to be doing and leave the ones in. The effect, well, we really want our reader to be in awe of what Valerie Rossoff is doing. So we want them to be in awe of and we Rossoff. And we also want them to be informed of his attempt at breaking and we want them to be informed about him attempting breaking the world record. So that's that section there. Now, vocabulary. Do you know what I'd be doing here? I'd be going straight over to my waggle and I'd be looking at all the language, the vocabulary that I really thought was good and that got the point over, and I would be taking from that straight away. So, some of the things that I'm sat here thinking about, I'd be thinking about, I'd be putting to make sure I spelled that right, and I'd also be doing Mount Cho Oi. Because if I can't spell that right, it's going to look really bad in my newspaper report. And I might put leapt into history because that leapt is quite a tricky word to spell. I'd be talking about spokesperson. I might be thinking about who the sponsor was, which was Red Bull. It's the name of a firm, so it's a proper noun, Red Bull. I might also be talking about record breaking. That's all I'm going to do there, really, because you have got the waggle, but this should be populated clearly with all the words, all the language that you want to use. And when you do use them, I would tick them off so that you know that you've used them once. I might also be sat there thinking about different ways I could describe Valerie Rossoff, because you don't want to say Valerie Rossoff over and over again. The Russian daredevil, the intrepid base jumper, all different ways. Then with your grammar, oh my goodness, well, you created your checklist. You know what grammar you should be using. So I'd go to that checklist and see. And a good place to start as well would be when you annotated your waggle. What were the things you had to pull out? Because these are the things here. How are you going to get description and how are you going to get quotes from your readers? What are you going from Valerie or the spokesperson for your reader? What are you going to use to get that? Blue and green groups, that was your challenge. Bit of a hint there. So I'm going to expect you to populate that yourself. So then once you have done that, Year 6, you can move on with the rest of your learning. So here we have. Right, now I have got my research here and I'm focusing on it's my first paragraph. So here, I've done you a structure strip because the children that I've been speaking to have said that they found this very helpful when they've been writing as a referral. So this is your first paragraph, past tense. And you're going to, firstly, in this paragraph, just introduce the 5 W's, the who, the what, the where, the when, and the why. You're not going into great detail, you're just setting the scene. Here, don't go into too much detail at this point. Don't give too much away. If you give too much away, your reader's not going to read on to find out what's happening because they've got it all in that first paragraph. So you're just hinting at what's going to come by giving them basic information, whetting their appetite, and then making them want to read on. You need to grab their attention so they want to find out more information. Now, big clue. You're going to need a title. So before you go any further, think about your title and what you're going to do for your newspaper report. Mine is Intrepid Base Jumper Beats World Record. And that's going to be my title. Now, you don't have to write it big and bold. You just write it as normal as we would in class and underline it neatly. And then here, I've just filled in my research for the who, the what, the where, the when, and the why. So let me see what I could do. I'm going to start off with a fronted adverbial, I think. Oh, and I don't want to type in red. I think I'll type in blue today. Feeling blue. Okay, so yesterday, this is the when, and I'm going to give it a date. And it was then, I'm going to use brackets to give this information. 2016, because that's when he did it. Now, when you use brackets, remember, you're giving additional information that's useful, but it's not the be-all and end-all if you didn't put it in. It's just extra information to help your reader understand the exact date, because they may not know what yesterday was. So then I'm going to put a comma, because that's my fronted adverbial, and I'm going to start saying, talk about the weather. I'm just going to start to put a bit of description in. Now, they're at the top of a mountain, so it was on a cold, cloudy morning. So I'm going to use my adjectival phrase, on a cold, cloudy morning. Then I'm going to say who. Russian daredevil. Then I'm going to say his name, because I've got to introduce him. Who knows no fear? Okay, so yesterday, 5th of October 2016, on a cold, cloudy morning, Russian daredevil Valery Rossov, who knows no fear. Oh, have you spotted what I've done there? Yes, I've put a relative clause in. And remember, it starts, Valery Rossov is the noun, so the relative clause always follows the noun. So Valery Rossov, who knows no fear, leapt into history. Remember, leapt is past tense for leap, history by breaking. And then I'm explaining what he did by breaking the world record for base jumping. And remember, I'm doing my base jumping in capitals because that's an acronym to stand for the buildings. I can't remember what that stands for now, but if you can remember what that is, or you can look back at your notes. So, but it describes all the different places that he jumps off. So for base jumping, full stop. And then I'm going to say where he chose the most dangerous of peaks. So here, by saying, rather than just saying he did it off Mount Choi Oyu, I'm going to say that I'm sort of setting the scene here and using my description to show that it was one of the most dangerous peaks. So he chose the most dangerous peak, and then I'm going to give the name. I'm going to use a hyphen to do that. Mount Cho Oyu. And then I'm going to say where it is, in the Himalayan mountains. And then I'm going to say where those Himalayan mountains are. So, because my reader might not know. Remember, perhaps you didn't know before I showed you the map right on day one. So Mount Choya-Oyu in the Himalayan mountains, which are on the border of Nepal and China. and then I'm going to say what he actually did, to attempt to gain recognition for jumping off the 6th highest mountain in the world. Okay, so I've got a bit of description in there. I've got 2 relative clauses in there. I wonder if you can spot the second one because I haven't identified it to you. I've used a frontal adverbial to start it. I've added extra information and I've used brackets. And I haven't given too much away, but I've said enough to interest my reader. So, year 6. I'm talking to yellow and green groups now. You have got enough information there for you to write your first paragraph. So I want you to pause the video right now and start to write your first paragraph. Blue groups, I want to talk with you for a little bit longer, so I would like it very much if you stayed with me before you started writing. Okay, blue group, you are going to write your report with a bit of a twist. You're going to write it with a bias. Now, a bias is where you show a prejudice for or against a person, a group or idea that is based on personal opinion rather than objective facts. So right from the very minute you start, you are going to have to decide in your head whether you approve of what Valery Rossoff does and think he's the most amazing person, amazing climber, an amazing base jumper there has ever been, and that's going to be the thread that comes through your writing right the way through, or you're going to think he's the most foolhardy person and reckless person that you've ever come across, and that's going to come across in your writing, because bias expresses a certain opinion or a point of view. So before you start writing blue group, you're going to have to decide what your point of view is going to be. Do you approve of him doing what he does, or do you disapprove? And when I read your report, that's going to have to come across very clearly to me. Now, to help you, I've got a little task that I want you to do. So I have given you an example of bias from the Guardian newspaper. Now, bias is all about the language choice and tone throughout your writing. So this is an example that was actually published in the Guardian newspaper. I want you to read it, and then before you even start writing, and you've got plenty of time to do this, I want you to use a highlighter or highlighters to identify how the journalist is showing bias and explain how it shows the bias. So you could say that this shows that he approves of what he's done, and he's shown this approval by using the language, or has made the language choice of X, Y, and Z. I want you to identify, there's a typo error there, which is really going to annoy me unless I do something about it. So let me take that one out. I want you to identify the precise nouns. This is going to help you to show the bias. Look for precise nouns and adjectives that show bias and highlight them. Identify the use of quotes showing the arrogance, like shrugs, you'd kill yourself. Use these to help you create bias in your report. You need now, when you've done this, you need to decide whether you are for or against base jumpers, whether you approve or disapprove. And I should know this in your report by reading it. And it's not just in this first paragraph, it's right the way through all the paragraphs. I should see the thread and the tone right the way through. So that's my challenge to you, Blue Group. So now, once you've done this activity and you've highlighted it and got an idea of what bias is, you are ready to write your first paragraph. So pause the video and go and do that. Okay, year 6. Now it comes down to editing. I want you to remember that you are writing in the past tense. I want you to think of different ways to say Valery Rossoff, like the daredevil, intrepid base jumper, Russian record breaker. There's plenty of examples of that in the Waggle. And I want you to edit. Editing 1, spelling, does it make sense, and punctuation. And then do the editing 2. Add, take away, replace, read aloud. The last thing, when you've done all that, go back through and reread your first paragraph. Blue group, are you showing a bias? Yellow group and green group, have you given me too much information, or have you just got enough that I want to read on? When you're happy with that work, I would like you to submit it to your class teacher at the end of the day. And that is your last lesson of the week. Year 6, I shall see you on Monday.